Good morning, everyone. I'm Tembo Nakamoto. I'm GSAIS student and a member in Network Society Research Group. In this research group, students deal with many kind of topics. Some students research about migrants, trades, and for me, it's international taxations. But the method is the same. That is network analysis. So through my presentation, I'd like to explain about my research and to show what kind of interdisciplinary research is done in our research group and how useful and powerful the network analysis we use is. And here is the outline of my presentation. First, I'd like to explain about the relationship between SDGs and the taxations, because the theme of today's symposium is Sustainable Development Goals in Asia. So at first, I want to say a little bit about the relationship. And then I'd like to explain about my research and show what kind of research we do. And then I will talk about the conclusion of my presentation. So let's begin with the introduction. So what kind of the relationship between SDGs and taxations? The already mentioned in 2015, United Nations made in total 17 goals, SDGs. But the problem is how find the financial resources are needed to meet sustainable development goals. According to the UNDP, they say 5 to 7 trillion US dollars will be needed for achieving sustainable development goals. But the problem is who pays that money? And actually also sustainable development goals already thought about this problem, because in goal 17 they say, one of target in goal 17 they say they should mobilize domestic resources for achieving sustainable development goals. And after that of SDGs, United Nations hosted a conference at Addis Ababa. It's a city of Ethiopia in 2015, and they adopted Addis Ababa Action Agenda with many governments. They confirmed to increasing tax revenue is very important for SDGs. And also prevention, tax avoidance is also very important to increase tax revenues for each government. Just because many governments lose their tax revenue by tax avoidance by multinationals. And this bar graph shows the amount of grants and the amount of tax revenue loss one Asian country. Let's talk about, to take an example, let's see the middle of this bar chart. This is for one Asian upper middle income countries. On average, they received 0.2 billion US dollars from developed countries in 1 year. On the other side, they lost their tax revenue. 11 billion US dollars per year. So the tax revenue loss is about 55 times as much the amount of grants they received per year. So just the tax revenue loss is very huge amount. So prevention of tax avoidance is very important to mobilize to funding for sustainable development goals. Then I'd like to move on to another question. Why are many governments lose their tax revenues? Why can multinationals avoid their tax? The background is like this. It's very simple. Economy is globalized, but tax law is still localized. Since 1980 or 1990s, many companies started to go abroad because they want to perform their business activities in foreign countries. So economy continued to be globalized. But the other side, taxation system, registration, legal system is still localized. Japanese tax system is made by Japanese government. UK tax system is also, of course, made by UK government. US tax system is also made by US government. So each tax system is not consistent with other countries' system. So those kind of inconsistency creates a lot of chances to avoid tax. And the multinationals, they want to avoid their tax, so they made very complicated ownership structures, like establish subsidiaries like paper companies in tax haven, those things. Establish many subsidiaries in foreign countries, not only for business purpose, but also for tax purpose, to avoid taxations. And the problem is, because multinationals want to avoid tax and they establish many subsidiaries in foreign countries, it is getting more and more harder for tax administration to supervise to all of the affiliates owned by multinationals, because those kind of affiliates, subsidiaries, are so many and are also located in many countries. And currently, many legal persons, such as lawyers or policymakers, are thinking about how to solve this problem from legal perspective. And in my research, I used network analysis. So from network perspective, I try to find a solution how tax administration supervise those affiliates to prevent tax avoidance effectively. And then I will explain about my research concretely. So what is the network analysis? This one is the method I used. Network analysis is the very new, major new area. It has started since around the 1990s. And the researchers in network analysis capture various things as a network. And this network consists of two parts. First one is node. It's like circle. And the other one is edge. It's like arrow. We use this nodes and edge construct a network and to think about understanding various topics. Some researchers research about human relations. Other researchers research about internet or the structure of protein. So we can apply this method to various topics. And here is my research. To identify affiliates, suspicious affiliates. Suspicious affiliates means that subsidiaries is likely to be used for tax avoidance. We'd like to identify those subsidiaries. So we first we make a model for the identifications, because some multinationals, we already know how some multinationals avoided their tax, because several years ago, US government and UK government investigated those multinationals. So we read those reports and make a model for the identification. And then we construct our ownership network. We used OBIS 2015 database that includes around 60 million firms' ownership information, and construct our ownership network. Then we apply this model to that ownership network to identify suspicious affiliates, suspicious subsidiaries. It means to identify the companies is like potentially try to avoid tax. And here is the result. We identified 1,311 suspicious affiliates, and most of affiliates are located in the Netherlands, Hong Kong, or British Virgin Islands. And the interesting thing is most of suspicious affiliates are in import. Import is like terminology, very technical word in network science, but it means although the entire ownership network is very huge, that includes again around 60 million firms, but suspicious affiliates are only located in import, 1.95%. It's very small part, very specific part. So that implies high-risk affiliates. That means suspicious subsidiaries, companies is likely to be used for tax avoidance might be very limited. So tax administration does not necessarily to supervise all of the subsidiaries owned by multinationals. Just focus on limited numbers. It might prevent tax avoidance effectively. And then I'd like to say conclusion. So today I'd like to say just 2 points. First point is taxation and SDGs is a very strong relationship, because solving tax avoidance, they provide financial resources for achieving sustainable development goals. And the second point is network analysis is very useful. So I applied network analysis to the context of international taxation and find out it might be effective countermeasure against tax avoidance for tax administration just to focus some limited number of affiliates owned by multinationals. And our research group will also make a poster presentation in the afternoon. So if you are interested in network analysis, please find us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much for your interesting presentation on tax avoidance. But would that not mean that the only way you can avoid tax avoidance, that all countries in the world would need to get together and have one taxation system? Because they don't. They all have different taxation systems. And that's why tax avoidance is often fully legal.
Yes. Thank you for your comments. Yeah, that's right. So currently, many governments talking about how to design the unified world taxation system, tax system. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Very interesting. How did the program identify? Was it autonomous? Did it identify? Was the identification of the suspicious entities, was that written into the code, or did you put some kind of statistical probabilities?
Thank you for your questions. We just make a model for the identification on the basis of publications by US government and the UK government. Because several years ago, US and the UK government investigated some multinationals to try understand how they avoid their tax. On the basis of that report, we've made a model and just apply that model to the entire ownership network to try to find out. So suspicious affiliates or subsidiary not necessarily means they really avoid tax, just suspicious. Thank you.